Good morning, afternoon, or evening, Burlington residents, whenever you happen to be watching this. Welcome to Burlington Matters. I am Mayor Marianne Mead-Ward, and we have another excellent panel lined up for you. I am joined by one of my council colleagues, Councillor Rory Nisan for Ward 3, and Curt Benson, who is the Director of Planning Services and the Chief Planning Official for Halton Region. And our topic today is talking about the application from Nisan Quarry to expand the quarry. I know a lot of people are really interested in that. It's a very complicated process, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to demystify the whole thing and make sure you know how you can get involved and stay on top of this one. So I'm just going to turn it right over to Curt. Where are we in the process of this application, and who gets to make that decision? How does it work?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mead-Ward, and thanks for the opportunity to be with you today. Back in the summer of last year, we became aware of the intention for Nisan Quarry to expand their extraction area, and as a part of the process, they do have to file applications with a couple of different approval authorities. Primarily, one being the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, where they do need a license and a site plan under the Aggregate Resources Act. But they also require local planning and land use approvals. So amendments to the regional official plan, for example, amendments to the local or the city of Burlington official plan, as well as amendments to the Niagara Escarpment planning or Niagara Escarpment plan and the development permit from the Niagara Escarpment Commission. So, we're in the process right now where we do have those applications. They've been filed. We are taking a look at the information that accompanied the application. Aggregate operations are very intensive land uses. They come with a range of significant impacts, and it's very important from a community perspective to make sure that we're examining the proposal to make sure that the applicant is covering off and addressing the key impacts. It's quite an involved process with a lot of different players, and hopefully perhaps in the show I can share with you a little bit in terms of what that process is like, including the joint agency review team that we've established to assist with the review.
We will, I'm sure, get to that, the JART, as we call it around here. I want to go to Councillor Nisan now and talk about the public engagement that has already taken place on this and some other, the opportunities that will continue to appear for residents to be involved.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for having me, Marianne. Great to be on the show. Already we had the pre-consultation meeting, which occurred pre-pandemic, in a very crowded room, the likes of which we haven't seen since. I think we had perhaps 200 or 300 people at the Burlington Springs Golf Club. And that was the pre-consultation meeting, which is an opportunity for really for the prospective applicants to share their plans with the community and get feedback from them. So the community did not hesitate to give their feedback, and that has already happened there. And needless to say, a large majority of people were not happy with what they saw. I mean, that's just what we heard. And since then, the emails have been rolling in as well. A couple of community groups have formed, Core Burlington being the public-facing one, as well as Pearl, which fought the last quarry application. So between those two groups, we are receiving a lot of emails. I've had a couple in favor and a few hundred opposed at this point. Nevertheless, all of those emails will be taken into account by us as we move to the next steps of the process. Now, for us in council, it's at a time to be determined, and Curt probably knows better when we can expect to see that come before council and have another one of those big meetings, whether it's virtual or in person, where we will hear directly from the community their concerns around the application.
Absolutely, and that's a great segue to the JART process and maybe some potential timing opportunities for when that formal public meeting will be held to inform all of us decision makers what the community thinks about this. So walk us through the JART and sort of how you think the timing of this is going to unfold, Curt.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Meadward. Yeah, the JART it stands for Joint Agency Review Team. Because we have many different regulatory players involved, it's really important to start to coordinate requirements. For example, the members of the JART include Halton Region, City of Burlington staff, the Niagara Escarpment Commission staff, the Conservation Authority staff. All of those agencies have specific requirements that they will be looking for the proponent to potentially address through their submission. It was important that we're coordinating as best we can among the public agencies to make sure that there's very clear and specific standards with respect to some of the submission materials. The JART also does a very technical review. We have engaged as a body of public entities, engaged a peer review team that covers a range of disciplines that looks at the potential impacts for the Quarry expansion. So, for example, impacts on groundwater and surface water, impacts related to noise, air quality, dust, odor, traffic, blasting impacts, environmental impacts. All of those things will be examined very closely by the JART. We've hired what we consider to be, preeminent experts in some of those fields to assist with our review, to make sure that we're, doing a fulsome review to ensure that neighborhood residents and those that live in the area are not impacted, by the operation or the proposal. No decision has been made, and it's certainly not the role of the Joint Agency Review Team to render a decision. That's City Council, that's Regional Council, that's the MNR and the Niagara Escarpment Commission. Those are the decision makers. I think JART is there as a resource or support to make sure our review is coordinated amongst the public bodies, and to make sure that we're all looking at the same type of information when it comes to the very technical review that we're undertaking. And I do want to add that there certainly is an opportunity for public participation in the JART process overall. For specific, technical analyses or comments that come in, the JART certainly is open and interested in hearing from members of the community that bring forward some of that, their own technical analysis, for example. And I think more generally, we do want to hear from residents directly in terms of, how they feel about the proposal. I think it's a very important part of the process of any planning and development approvals, proposal that we hear directly from those who potentially can be impacted. That's an important part of the process here.
And just to clarify, who goes first? My understanding is that the Niagara Escarpment Commission makes a decision first, and if that's a no, that kind of stops it. If it's yes, then it comes to city and region, but correct me there. And if that's a no, what are their avenues? If it's a yes, I'm guessing the final yes would come from the Ministry of Natural Resources. So what's that decision-making steps, and who's on first?
Yeah, no, it is kind of there's a bit of complexity. And I guess the way I tend to break it down is, the land use approvals or decisions are on one side, and then the actual license for the aggregate facility is on the other side. The license, which is an absolute must if they are to proceed with their expansion, needs to come directly from MNR. So the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, they are the ones that regulate extraction activities across the board in Ontario. But when it comes to the land use approvals, you're correct in that the Niagara Escarpment Commission has, because the expansion area is within the Niagara Escarpment Plan area, the Niagara Escarpment plan must be amended first. So, the NEC must take forward a recommendation to either approve or not approve the expansion to their commission. And if they do decide not to, approve, generally the municipalities cannot move forward with a recommendation to approve, because our plans must conform to the Niagara Escarpment plan.
Great, thanks for that. And I know one of the things, one of the questions I get a lot, and I know Councillor Nisan, you get it as well, is, didn't the community already kind of render a decision? Weren't they already turned down? Why is this back? Like Groundhog Day. Why is this application come back? And and what does council think about it? I know you and I both get that question, and we're being asked to render sort of an opinion about this expansion. We certainly don't do that at this point, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to both of those and why council will not be weighing in one way or the other on this application at this time.
Sure. So yeah, first of all, we do get that question a lot. Why are they back? We already turned them down. We won, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's you know what? From a resident point of view, it seems like a fair point. The way it works, though, is an applicant can bring an application anytime if they can complete a full application, if they put the money down. They can do a new application of essentially the exact same. Now, in this case, the application is not the same. It covers a whole new area, which is what is now the Burlington Springs Golf Course, as well as carving out smaller portions south of number 2 Side Road. So it is in effect a new application, be it from essentially the same applicant as before. So we have to hear it. There's no two ways about it. It has to go through the appropriate process. That is the due process that we have in our democracy, rule of law. Now, as to whether we can, give our decision on it, what I try to say to residents is, we as councillors, with our duty to the municipality, are kind of like judges. We can't say whether someone is innocent or guilty until we've heard all the evidence in court. So that means in council, hearing both sides, getting all of the reports, coming in, having all the evidence in front of us. Again, under our sort of rule of law, we have to wait until we have everything to demonstrate that we were fair, transparent, and being straight dealers. So we have no choice but to wait. As much as we may like to jump out there now, we can't.
Well said, and we get that. We're getting that on another application right now as well. Big proposed redevelopment of the Millcroft Golf Course, and so we've had to explain that on that one as well, that we don't make any decisions or render any opinions. In that case, we don't even have an application, but we certainly want the process to be seen as fair and impartial, and so we reserve judgment until the review has been completed and we get a recommendation from our staff. So one thing I did want to ask you about, Curt, and we have certainly heard this from the community, well, from the applicants actually. There's a website out there saying that, let's turn this into a park, 100 years from now, when the application and the quarry extraction is complete, and so we're going to give you a park. So in exchange for that, you should be approving this application, and that has, I can tell you, caused some considerable concern within the community. And so they've been asking, to what degree does a future use of the quarry weigh into or factor into any planning approvals? And to be just quite blunt, the community has asked both Councillor Nisan and I, are you going to approve it in exchange for a park? And the short answer is no, but I wanted you to talk about, Curt, from a planning standpoint, how that potential after use factors into any planning permit approval decisions.
Yeah, thanks. It's an important question. With all aggregate extraction proposals or expansion proposals to existing operations, one of the things that we look at is after use and compatibility of after use with the broader community context. But it certainly isn't the primary consideration. I think one thing with aggregate extraction operations is that these land uses are often in place for decades. That means that we have to go in with respect to our review and decision making on these with our eyes wide open in terms of what we are looking at and what we are potentially considering for approval. And so, I did mention a little earlier about some of the areas of potential impact that really weigh prominently in our review. I'd say after use is kind of, one small aspect of that initial review, but I kind of put, the impacts to, the water, the groundwater regime, surface water regime, noise, dust, air quality, traffic, blasting, all of those are, primary areas of concern and focus of our review.
As it should be. Those are the immediate impacts to the quarry, and I think that has to be determined, is the impact first and the use first, and then determine if there's an after use or a potential after use. And it's worth noting that there already is a park up there. It's called a golf course that exists, and I can tell you, and I know Councillor Nisan's heard this, is greatly enjoyed and valued by the surrounding community. It's a spectacular green space with trees and animals and all kinds of things there already. And that's certainly been a concern expressed to me about the potential loss of that to quarrying activity. So there's a lot of review material. Rory, you and I have started a newsletter. Talk to folks about that and where else they can get the information. There's information on the city and region, but talk to them about where to find the more detailed reports and analysis as this process goes through.
Sure, we have a website. Staff have put together a website on the quarry. So if you go to burlington.ca, point towards Ward 3 applications, you'll see the website. So that has all the pertinent documentation at this stage. If you want to hear from yourself and myself the latest, then you can email either of us, frankly. Maybe the easiest one is to go to ward3@burlington.ca as an email address, or yourself, mayor@burlington.ca, and we'll connect you to our issue-specific newsletter. By the way, I wanted to mention about the park. This land becomes a liability once it's been quarried. Becomes a liability to the owner who has to pay taxes on that land. So it's in their interest to find an after use that doesn't involve them continuing to pay taxes on that land. And it has been mentioned as an urban park. However, it's not in the urban area. It's in the Niagara Escarpment. So there is a difference of framing, an important difference of framing on this.
Absolutely. The residents can also, on the page that you mentioned, Rory, on the city's webpage, there's in the top right corner, once you land there, there's a button called subscribe. So if you hit that button and give us your email, anytime there's a new report or public meeting or a set of studies that are added to that page, which they all will be as they start to come in, you will get an email notification, so you can stay on top of all of that. We'll do our best as well. So there's a number of avenues for residents to make sure that they don't miss a thing. This process, I think at one time, Curt, you said it's could be up to 2 years of review. Is that sort of what you're still thinking this is going to take?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the application submission that came in, I think there was over 3,000 pages worth of technical review and analysis. We have a host of about a dozen skilled consultants who are helping us assist with the review and under some of those different disciplines that I mentioned earlier. So our consultants are doing, a rigorous review. We are going to flag issues and questions and, some of the concerns from a technical perspective to the proponent. The proponent, will be asked to take those concerns and to provide us with some answers. And so there is a bit of a back and forth throughout the process. The process does take, in many cases, it takes years to get through all of the technical information. I think it's just kind of, the nature of the review of a very complex proposal. So there's going to be ample time for members of the public who are interested in this to participate. We will be hosting public meetings throughout that review period. We're talking about the potential for hosting a public meeting in the first half or the first quarter of next year. We also will have to facilitate our statutory requirements under the Planning Act to host a public meeting. The city and the region are looking right now at hosting a joint meeting so that residents don't have to delegate to both regional and city council. It can happen at once. I want to make it easy for residents to participate in the process throughout.
That's great. And I did want to just touch again on the review that is being undertaken in the studies. So one of the questions that we've certainly heard is, well, the applicant finds the consultants to do the reviews and they pay for those reviews, and who's checking their work? What kind of peer review, for lack of a better word, is done to either validate those whatever findings are in those technical studies. And there's, as you say, a mountain of them dealing with all the issues: blasting, air quality, groundwater, and many more. What is that review process in more detail? Like, do we hire our own set of consultants to go out and do the work? How does that work?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And so through the JART, the public agencies involved in the review, so the City of Burlington, the region, the Niagara Escarpment Commission, Conservation Halton, have all banded together as a part of the JART. And together we've hired, like I said, about a dozen technical experts to really assist with digging into those technical reports, doing a rigorous review to make sure that documented standards are being adhered to with respect to assessing impact. We want to make sure that, if we're looking at this proposal and assessing this proposal, we don't want, our community and our residents impacted by it. So we will be asking, based on the review from those technical experts, we will be asking questions of the proponent to clarify matters, to go back and perhaps do some additional work to help us really understand the true nature of the impacts that this proposal comes with. So that work is ongoing. It does take some time to really dig in, but that is generally the process as it's laid out.
That's great, thanks. And we've just got a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to come back to you, Councillor Nisan. What is the most immediate sort of next step or opportunity on the horizon for residents, and any final thoughts you want to leave with the community on this?
Sure. So there's the consulting with residents is ongoing. So I think we need to now approach this as sort of the long part, between now and having that statutory public meeting. So I think it's really important that residents continue to get their voices heard by sending in those emails or letters or phone calls, sharing their thoughts on this application. And of course, there are those community groups who have ongoing activities as well that some members of the community may wish to take part in. So that's the next step, and I forgot your second question.
Any final thoughts you want to leave with
the final
community?
thoughts, right. The last word, so to speak. Yeah. Not really, but yeah, I think my main message would be hang in there, because this is a multi-year situation. we know that there's a very good chance that this could end up in a board hearing through something called the joint board, which is something that even we haven't experienced on our council. We've had LPAT hearings, but the joint board is another kettle of fish. So this could take 5, 6, 7 years, but I think that the stronger and the more resilient that residents are, the more likely that their hopes for this area will bear fruit.
Thanks for that. And back to you, Curt. Any final thoughts you want to leave with the community and our viewers today?
No, thank you. And I think just echoing Councillor Nisan's comments is that participation and comments and feedback are certainly welcome and encouraged throughout the process. It's important that residents' voices are heard. We are doing our technical review and analysis using the best available consultants on the technical side, but impacts hit home to the community. So we want to hear directly from the community. It's a very important part of our process.
Absolutely. And just wrapping up, thank you so much, Curt, our Director of Planning Services. I know I mangled your title there, but a great resource for us to have on this file at Halton Region. And of course, my colleague, Ward 3 Councillor Rory Nisan, who has really been a huge advocate for the community and making sure that you are well informed and know how to participate in this process. It is very important to stay involved through the long haul. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and your input will shape whatever outcome happens, and you're the best to tell us about the specific impacts to your neighborhood. You live there, and we all care about our Niagara Escarpment World Biosphere Reserve, so that will all be considered as we go through this process of review and analysis. So thank you so much for joining us and tuning in yet again for another edition of Burlington Matters. Signing off now, I'm Mayor Mary Ann Mead Ward. Have a great